Greetings everyone, this is Pintpot. Welcome to my latest edition of Climbing the Curve, the series intended to make you the hunter rather than the hunted a little faster. Today I'm going to take another look at the Sunderer, specifically how the changes after the recent patch will affect the vehicle. Now there are two major changes to the Sunderer. The first is that squad members can spawn in a Sunderer provided another squad member is within that vehicle. The second is that the advanced mobile station has been removed from the utility slot. Rather, it's been made a passive ability. It still costs 50 certs to unlock. It should still be your first priority to unlock on a Sunderer. However, once unlocked, it no longer takes up the utility slot. So the key question is, what are the implications for these changes to gameplay? Well, there are two principal implications. The less important one is that now Sunderers have better survivability. This is because Sunderers with the AMS unlocked will also have access to IR smoke and fire suppression in the utility slot. Both can be used to improve the overall survivability of a Sunderer, and I'll be considering which you should invest in just a moment. Now the second implication will undoubtedly affect wider gameplay to a much greater extent, and that is that Sunderers with the AMS attached will now have access to the gate diffuser ability. The gate diffuser ability allows a Sunderer to pass through shields that would otherwise block its movement for a brief period of time. This means that for those bases which are protected by shields, previously inaccessible points to AMS Sunderers are now accessible. When you couple this with the change they've made to allow squad members to spawn in squad-owned Sunderers and galaxies, these changes could radically increase the number of places you can spawn at certain bases. Now when you're using the squad deploy ability, you're allowed to do it within the red zone where you're not allowed to deploy an AMS. Now even if you didn't have a squad deploy ability, just having a Sunderer with both gate diffuser and AMS would allow the Sunderer to deploy in a lot more locations. But the implication of allowing squad spawns at a Sunderer which is within the red zone of a base means that you can get a gate diffuser Sunderer, say, into the heart of a tech plant and then start spawning your entire squad. Now to use the squad deploy, you have to have one of your squad members in the vehicle. If they are outside, you're not allowed to spawn there. Now if anyone in your squad hops into the vehicle, then it instantly becomes an available spawn point for the rest of the squad. So what could this potentially mean for newer players? Well, one implication is you should expect to see a lot more enemy Sunderers in bases you're trying to defend. It also means that when you're assaulting an enemy base, particularly if you're in a squad, then you should have a lot more advantageous squad spawn spots. Therefore, by implication, attacking has become easier and defending more difficult. This particularly applies to those bases which are heavily reliant on shields to stop enemy vehicles coming in. There are a decent number of bases like this in Indar and Amarish, but I'm particularly thinking about amp stations and tech plants. Interesting, with biodomes, you're no longer allowed to use the gate diffuser ability to take you in to the vehicle spawn point. As you can see from the footage, it treats it as forbidden territory and destroys your vehicle. So the question is, for a newer player, what should you be investing your certs into? Well, the most potent ability is clearly the gate diffuser. However, it is both situational, as not all bases have shields, and the most expensive at 100 certs. So I would only recommend taking this if you've gone down the blockade armor route for your Sunderer. This because you're going to be right at the heart of the battle, within the enemy base. Therefore you want the most durable Sunderer you can possibly have, as you're going to get a lot of enemy attention. So where do the other upgrades sit? IR smoke and fire suppression. Rank 1 IR smoke gives you 8 seconds of immunity from lock-on missiles once every 60 seconds. This ability is most useful for your Sunderer when you're crossing large open areas. In these circumstances you're very vulnerable to lock-on missiles. However, it is not terribly useful once you've deployed your Sunderer. The reason is, the deployed Sunderer doesn't move, therefore you don't need to lock on your missiles to still be able to hit them. It does protect you against those missiles which can only be used if you have a lock-on, such as the Annihilator and the Striker, but there's still a host of other rockets and missiles that can be used that do not require a lock-on. So in other words, it's an upgrade which is there to assist you getting from A to B in one piece. However, once you've arrived at your destination, it doesn't help a great deal. Therefore I'll be looking particularly to put this upgrade on support Sunderers, those with either the ammo or repair upgrade. This is because they're more likely to be hiding further at the back and therefore less subject to direct attack, but they're still very vulnerable crossing open plains in order to get to those safe locations. However, it's useful for any build, even a blockade armor Sunderer, as you don't always need the gate diffuser ability to be attached, given the fact that it is a situational ability. It also has the advantage of being the cheapest line to upgrade, with its initial rank only costing 10 certs. Therefore, I see no reason for you not to pick up this upgrade for the Sunderer. Now, the final potential upgrade to consider is fire suppression. If your vehicle is on fire, it will take it out of being on fire, and it will heal a certain percentage over a 5-second period. A rank 1 that's 3%, and a rank 4 that's 12%. Similar to IR Smoke, this ability can only be activated by the driver, which is a bit of an issue for this ability. Usually when you're protecting your deployed Sunderer, you're going to be in a gunner seat. Therefore, to activate the ability and to gain the heal on your Sunderer, you're going to have to switch to the driver's seat, then switch back to the gunner seat. This is clearly not ideal, especially as you're probably going to be in the middle of combat at the time. Therefore, I see that this ability benefits battle buses the most, when all your guns are manned and you're actively seeking the enemy with your Sunderer. In these circumstances, you frequently receive heavy damage. Fire suppression can be used to give you extra longevity in these sometimes very tight fights. However, it only really comes into its own at the higher ranks, as at rank 1 it only heals 3% of your health, which is not a great deal. Therefore, my advice for newer players is to pick up IR Smoke. This can be used for your standard loadout. If you have invested in blockade armor, then I recommend also picking up the gate diffuser ability. Though situational, this can be an absolute game changer when you're assaulting some bases. And finally, I'd only invest in fire suppression if you're going to be using your Sunderer as a battle bus. This is undoubtedly the most expensive option, as to do it effectively, not only do you have to upgrade your blockade armor, you should also be upgrading your guns, the amount of ammunition, the amount of capacity they have, and in this case, also the fire suppression ability. This all mounts up, but it is a very enjoyable build to play, but perhaps best left to later in the game. So, in conclusion, the recent changes made to the Sunderer have potentially large implications for the game. This particularly applies to the squad deploy ability within the squad Sunderer. In addition, be able to run AMS in tandem with the gate diffuser ability. As a consequence, we may see some bases literally become indefensible. Therefore, it would not surprise me if we see some backtracking on some of these abilities by the developers. In the meantime, these are the way the abilities work, and be sure to take advantage of them, because your enemies surely will. Now, in my next episode, I'm going to be taking a look at upgrading the heavy assault. If you found this video interesting or enjoyable, please feel free to thumbs up, thumbs down, comment, or subscribe as appropriate. In the meantime, have a good one, happy hunting, and Pintpot out.